Hey guys, how you doing today? Kind of a windy day, but still a beautiful day out here, so sorry if the audio quality is a little wonky on this video because of the wind, but I still think this is an important subject. This is a dense, complex, difficult subject, one that I lose subscribers over, okay? So get ready for the controversial takes, get ready for the positions that maybe you're not hearing on the day-to-day. But hey, why are you tuning in to the Canadian Commie if not to hear stuff that you don't hear regularly through your normal media? Oh hey, speaking of normal media, John Ivison has published what has to be described as xenophobic propaganda against the Chinese government. We're gonna go through this. Again, it's dense. If you hear something and you think that doesn't sound right, I've done a ton of videos on this subject. Just look through my history, you're gonna find some stuff. If hearing about CIA propaganda spooks you, maybe just move on to the next video, okay guys? But I feel I've done the legwork on this, so let's go through this article because it's a good template to talk about these issues and to talk about why we are attempting to stir up dissent against the Chinese government, okay? Here we go.
Ivison. Colorful words of Chinese diplomacy can't hide Orwellian doublethink behind them. The Chinese Foreign Ministry operates like Orwell's Ministry of Truth, so that listeners are encouraged to believe that slavery is freedom and war is peace.
Anybody else really tired of the 1984 talk? Like, it's like John Ivison only read one book in high school and he knows that everybody else also pretended to read that book. And they all know it's about spooky government and how the government tells lies and they've got doublespeak and newspeak and all these sorts of things. And so everybody can get on the same page. And as long as you say Orwell, everybody is suddenly like, spooked out about everything. I'm exhausted with it. And boy, is it ever lazy.
There is something quite engaging about the use of metaphors by Chinese diplomats. Dark clouds cannot block sunshine. Lies cannot cover truth, said Kong Pei-wu, China's ambassador to Canada, in a press briefing on Wednesday, in reference to what he called the lie of the century, allegations of genocide in Xinjiang province. Hui Shunying, China's foreign ministry spokeswoman, recently said Canada was like a thief posing as a judge in its attempts to launch a declaration against arbitrary detention aimed at China. The rock Canada is lifting will end up hitting its own foot, she said. But if the language is colorful, there is nothing charming about the claims being made.
Yeah, there is nothing charming about falsely claiming that a nation is committing a genocide that they are not committing. Okay, let's get into this, guys. So the CIA promulgated propaganda through one of its assets, Adrian Zenz, among other assets, to falsely claim that China is committing a genocide in the Xinjiang region. How do we know that this is a false claim? Because people went there, right? People went into the region of Xinjiang and they came out saying there's no genocide happening here. People like organizations like the World Bank, the Pakistani government sent diplomats. China has invited the UN to come and take a look. What did everybody walk out of there saying? Everybody walked out of there saying that what the Chinese are doing are running education centers the same way that France is running education centers, okay? There's no genocide going on, and yet we're supposed to believe this propaganda coming out of the CIA and being propagated by John Ivison. I don't. I refuse to believe it, because these have negative consequences on our society, right? We have been experiencing an uptick in Asian racism here in Canada, and it's because of the propagation of this kind of propaganda and these sorts of lies. We should stop it. We know better. And Ivison, you should stop it. You know better.
The range of language cannot obscure the narrowness of thought permitted by China and parroted by its envoys around the world. George Orwell foretold the concept of newspeak in his dystopian novel, 1984.
Classic conservative tactic to blame other people for the thing that you are guilty of, right? So if you are using newspeak, you have to accuse other people of using newspeak. That's what John Ivison is doing here. He's attempting to convince you that the Chinese are the liars when they say that a non-existent genocide is non-existent, and they're the ones telling the truth when they have a CIA operation promulgate a series of propaganda pieces based on no evidence, facts, or even eyewitness testimony.
According to Kong, the arrest of Huawei's executive Meng Wanzhou is a serious political incident involving a woman who has broke no Canadian laws, while the detention of Michael Korvig and Michael Spavor is a judicial case involving two Canadian citizens accused of crimes against China's national security. There is no connection between these cases, the ambassador said. In Hui's view, it is Meng who has been arbitrarily detained, and it is Canada that is guilty of behaving in a fashion that is hypocritical and despicable. The declaration against arbitrary detention looks like Canada's confession in the Meng case, she said, alleging that some of the 58 countries that endorsed it didn't even know they were on the list.
So let's say the Chinese are lying on this point. Let's say that we picked up one of their people and then we turned around and picked up two of theirs, right? So doesn't this just mean that they're fighting back against us? That what are they supposed to do? Just let us silently pick up one of their citizens and one of their people and shuffle them away without comment? Or are they gonna fight back and create an international incident so that you can't just disappear this person into the prison system, right? If we take what the Canadian narrative is, which is that we picked somebody up on behalf of the United States and then the Chinese retaliated against us, well, you know what that means? That means China fights for its own. That means China is going to fight back. And how dare they? How dare they fight back? Can there be a more colonial position than this? How dare they fight back?
The Chinese Foreign Ministry operates like Orwell's Ministry of Truth, deliberately promoting Newspeak so that the listeners are encouraged to believe that slavery is freedom and war is peace. Far from being persecuted, the Muslim Uyghurs are living safe and happy lives, Kong said.
More of this Orwell nonsense. Oh my goodness. Well, you know, if it works, I guess, right? Might as well stick with it. You go to YouTube right now, type in China Xinjiang travel blog, type in Uyghur festivals, type in any of this kind of stuff. You know what you're going to find? You're going to find people celebrating their religion openly on the street. You're going to find people talking to Uyghurs. You're going to find Uyghurs out and about doing their thing, right? Like, this commentary completely hinges on the fact that you have bought the propaganda hook, line, and sinker, like our Canadian Parliament did, right? Our Canadian Parliament has gone along almost unanimously. Justin Trudeau abstained. I wonder why Justin Trudeau abstained from the vote when he said, I think that we need more evidence, because guess what? There is no evidence. And you can literally go to YouTube and find evidence simply by just typing in travel blogs and watching people talk to Uyghurs, watching people go to Uyghur festivals. Like, there's so much evidence to countervail this propaganda that comes out of the CIA, but we're all just supposed to go along with it. Because I guess, screw the Chinese, I guess.
He was speaking on the eve of the two-sessions parliamentary meeting in Beijing, where China's Communist Party leaders will reveal the 14th five-year plan of economic and social targets, which may include more details on the future management of Hong Kong. The ambassador was keen to tout China's historic achievements in poverty alleviation. As he noted on February 25th, President Xi Jinping declared complete victory in fighting poverty, a Chinese solution to the poverty issue worldwide. Kong said Xinjiang province is an example of what we have achieved in terms of human rights. Far from shrinking, he said the Uyghur population grew by 2.5 million between 2010 and 2018.
And all of that is true. China has been a resounding success in terms of its poverty alleviation policies. And the Uyghur population has increased. Like, what genocide have you ever seen where the population actually increases over time? Like, the whole reason why there's this xenophobic anti-Chinese propaganda coming out of the CIA is because the Americans and North America don't want people to see that China has a new model for how to run a country. Like, China's support amongst its own people is 90%, right? People are really happy with what their government is doing and the achievements that they're managing to put forward, and they're doing it in a non-capitalist system with new ideas and new models that are putting them forward. And the capitalist class doesn't want you to realize it. They don't want you to realize it, that China is helping its own citizens and being successful at it. They want you to demonize China so that you'll see a bunch of barbarians instead of people who are putting forward an economy that's going to supersede the American economy soon, instead of putting forward a highly technological society which is starting fusion reactors and building the largest dams in the world. Right? As long as you see China as this a genocidal barbarian nation, right, you'll never want to try to learn something from them, and that's a big win for the capitalists, and it's a big win for the CIA.
Allegations of concentration camps in the province are false, he said. Vocational and educational training centers are no different than de-radicalization centers in France. The door to Xinjiang is always open to welcome fair-minded foreigners, he said.
The BBC even sent a film crew in to these vocational centers, right? The BBC sent a film crew in, and you know what they found? You know what they captured? They captured a school where at the end of the day, people got to leave the facility and go home. Yeah, super huge genocide happening here, right? Super huge thing happening. Certainly it has nothing to do with the fact that there's been an enormous amount of terrorist activity in the Xinjiang province recently. Certainly it has nothing to do with the fact that China is attempting to deal with its radicalized Islamic terrorist groups that exist within the Xinjiang province. Certainly it has nothing to do with any of that. And certainly they didn't model these schools off of what France is doing, off of what, like, Malaysia is doing, right? This is a completely normal response. And ultimately, what's the alternative, right? What's the alternative? Oh, you know what the American alternative is, eh? Go into the region, bomb them, steal their resources, leave, right? That's how the Americans want to see this problem dealt with. They certainly don't want anybody to set up some kind of school to teach people Chinese so that they can go get a job and so that they can, like, create some kind of unification amongst one another like they do in France. They certainly don't want to see that.
Kong waved away the accounts of forced sterilization by individual women, claiming such stories are being hyped as tools to smear China.
Forced sterilization line is absolutely the worst. You can literally find the people that Mike Pompeo, the head of the CIA, cites as people who have been sterilized. You can go find them begging him to stop saying that about them. You can find them saying, Mike Pompeo, stop lying about my sterilization. I wasn't sterilized. Please stop saying this, Mike Pompeo. And you know what Mike Pompeo does? He says it anyway. He's the head of the CIA. He's supposed to lie to us. That's his job.
The ambassador cautioned foreigners, including Canada's parliamentarians, against interfering in China's domestic affairs in Xinjiang and Hong Kong. We will take resolute measures to safeguard our national interests, sovereignty, and security, he said. I would stress Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong, and no one, no force, no country has the right to interfere in Hong Kong-related issues.
What's the controversy here, right? Like, I'm supposed to be floored because China is going to defend its own sovereign territory, right? Hong Kong is Chinese territory. Like, I'm supposed to think that they're evil for stating what anybody would actually state about their own sovereign territory and what anybody would expect any nation to say about their territory, which is that they're going to defend it?
This is more evidence of the Orwellian doublethink at the core of the Communist Party narrative.
Gotta get Communist Party in there, right? For the real true McCarthyans.
Foreign intervention in China's domestic affairs will not be tolerated, while Beijing is at liberty to dabble in the politics of other countries.
dabble in the politics of other nations, you mean like creating CIA propaganda that accuses a nation of committing a genocide that they're not committing? Like that kind of dabbling, Ivison?
Steal intellectual property.
You ever notice how everything that we have here in Canada says made in China on it? You ever notice that? You ever wonder, what did we give to the Chinese to have them make everything for us? Did we maybe give them our intellectual property rights on the stuff that they make for us?
And intimidate the Chinese diaspora around the world.
Yikes. Yikes, bud. Yikes.
The British communications regulator Ofcom recently cancelled the license of China Global Television Network in the UK because it is controlled by the Communist Party and is in the midst of proceedings about breaches of impartiality, fairness, and privacy provisions. Beijing responded by booting BBC World News out of China, citing political oppression and ideological bias. In Newspeak, the world's oldest national broadcaster is guilty of airing false news, while the Communist Party's propaganda arm is objective, impartial, authentic, and accurate.
How dare they fight back! How dare they fight back!
It is a bitter sign of the times that China has co-opted countries round the world to support its malignant policies. 2 years ago, 22 countries, including Canada, issued a joint letter at the United Nations Human Rights Council condemning China's policy in Xinjiang. 4 days later, 37 countries, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, North Korea, and Russia, issued a second letter, backing China's behavior and expressing their opposition to the politicization of human rights issues. Similarly, when the Human Rights Council took a vote on China's crackdown in Hong Kong last July, 53 countries supported Beijing, and only 27 criticized the new national security law. Again, support came from autocracies that are deeply indebted to China as part of its Belt and Road infrastructure plan.
So now Ivison has to smear the majority of nations who are actually aligned with China. Oh, isn't that interesting? Notice how he just said that there are less nations who are against China than who are for China. And it's gotta be because they're immoral autocracies who are going along with China on economic grounds and all. Blah, blah. There hasn't been a single Muslim nation that has stood up and said that what China has been accused of is happening, right? Turkey, the people who are most closely aligned with the Uyghurs culturally, has outright said, nah, these are fine. What's happening in China is completely fine. The Belt and Road Initiative is what the Americans are interested in preventing, right? This is an initiative that comes out of the Xinjiang province, right? It starts in the Xinjiang province, and it's a series of trade routes that connect with Russia through the Middle East, down into Africa, into Europe, and allows China to continue trade with most of the rest of the world should America, and actually I should say when America, starts a war in the South China Sea, right? China does $5 trillion worth of trade through the South China Sea, and if the Americans can start a war there and disrupt that trade, they can disrupt China's economy. China knows this, and so they want to prevent it, and they're going to prevent it by building a series of land-based trade routes that originates in, guess where? The Xinjiang province, where the Americans, through the CIA, are accusing the Chinese of committing a non-existent genocide. Isn't it weird how that all works?
The cultivation of a sympathetic voting bloc helps explain China's vaccine diplomacy, which has seen it export vaccine to 27 countries, even though its domestic vaccination program lags other large countries. There are no political conditions attached, said Kong. We are doing this so we make sure we are together fighting this horrible pandemic. It would be heartening to believe Kong's explanation that China is deploying vaccine as a global public good.
Imagine finding out that a nation is giving away vaccines for free and trying to pretend like that's a bad thing. Imagine hearing that a nation is giving away vaccines for free in order to help combat this horrible pandemic, and then telling everybody, but they're evil, I'm sure of it, they're so evil giving away free vaccines, while we're being charged an arm and a leg for the vaccines that we can get to Pfizer and Medora and all these guys who are charging us billions and billions of dollars to get access to theirs. The Chinese Communist government is just like, vaccines for all, vaccines for all. Yeah, but it's capitalism that's the best system. Capitalism's the best, for sure.
But it strains credulity.
Does it?
It would require one to accept that detention centers in Xinjiang are local schools.
They are.
And the imprisonment of Michael Spavor and Michael Korvig is unrelated to the Mang case.
How dare they fight back?
In the world of Chinese diplomacy, language corrupts thought, so that clocks can strike 13 and 2 plus 2 can add up to 5.
Oh yeah, we were doing that Orwell thing. Yeah, I gotta land back on that, I guess. So look, this kind of propaganda and propagating this kind of propaganda is dangerous. It's dangerous because it convinces the racists and bigots that exist in your society that now we can go after the Chinese and that's completely fine. That the Chinese are barbarians, that the Chinese are evil and an evil malignant force in the world. Well, literally our closest ally just finished bombing the Middle East again, 3 different nations again, that it continues its reign of terror through the world, but we're supposed to believe that China is the evil one because we claimed that there's a genocide going on that isn't actually happening at all. Like, this is highly dangerous stuff. That what is obviously happening is that the American government and our own government is attempting to manipulate us so that when we go to war with China, we'll just be quiet about it. We'll just be like, oh yeah, well, they're genocidal maniacs, so yeah, they had it coming, right? When Americans begin a proxy war in the Xinjiang region by arming Islamic terrorists, we'll go, yeah, those are freedom fighters, right? This is a nuclear power we're talking about here, and a nuclear power who I think that we should be allies with, who I think that we should try to work with, who I think is actually attempting to do something on the world stage to actually not only improve the lives of their own citizens, but improve the lives of the nations around them, right? We bomb our neighbors, right? We look at our neighbors and we go, oh, you've got resources we can steal. We bomb our neighbors, right? What's China doing? Oh, they're building trade routes with their neighbors. Ooh, they must be the evil ones, right? They must be the evil ones. We gotta be smarter than this, guys. Like, this kind of propaganda is open and is on the face of it. They're not even trying, really. They're just expecting us to go along with it. They're just expecting us to not do any research, to not figure anything out, and not realize that, like, they're lying. And it's really obvious that people like John Ivison are happy to lie to you. Okay, this is the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, guys. We gotta send this kind of stuff around, okay? Like, please share, please subscribe. And hey, if you've got a buck jangling around in your pocket, I got a Patreon in the description. I really could use it, man. Like, I really could use it. Even $1 would really, really help me out. Okay, guys, you see how these guys are trying to gaslight you, right? If they're gonna gaslight you about the existence of a non-existent genocide in China, they're for sure gonna gaslight you about every aspect of your life. Don't let them. Support channels like mine. Oh, good luck. We're gonna need it.